Welcome back. The news continues in Southern Africa. On Saturday, South Africa woke up to the devastating news of a mass shooting that happened in Lusikisiki in Eastern Cape that almost wiped out the entire family. The incident claimed the lives of 17 family members and friends at Ngobozana village. 2 homesteads on the same street in the town of Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape were targeted, with 12 women and 1 man killed in one location, and 3 women and 1 man at a second location. The 18th victim died in hospital on Sunday. According to the South African Police Services, the motive for the shooting is still unknown, and a manhunt is underway for those responsible for the killings, according to National Police spokesperson Brig Athlenda Mathe. The president of the General Industries Workers Union of South Africa, GIWUSA, Mametlwe Sebei, joins me this very morning to shed more light on the sad incident that indeed took place in South Africa. Thank you so much for joining us all the way from Gauteng. What was your first thought when you heard about the Eastern Cape mass killings, and your insight into what could have led to the mass shooting that took the lives of 18 family members over the weekend?
Joe, I was absolutely shocked. We are obviously very sad over this very terrible and indeed a tragic killing of the entire family, basically, right? Because, what remains of the few survivors really is just nothing that would really be able to rebuild the family in any immediate term and so on. And I think this horrific murder, mass murder, which is the only way you can really characterize it, it sent shockwave across the country. And I think people are even more shocked by the fact that government hasn't really reacted. Now, obviously, this must be a domestic-related violence. And the reason is that these families were gathered for a ceremony to mourn 2 people apparently who were killed last year in the same family. And I'm not so sure about the circumstances, but it seems to have been appeared to be, in the same manner and so on. Now, that you could have a murder of the same family taking place last year. People are not being apprehended, as I think it's obvious in this case. And these people are gathering to try to mourn and to move on. And they're faced with the same tragedy, far worse than that. I think for me, it's just shocking, beyond belief. Over and above that, it's just tragic and sad.
All right. Are there known patterns or trends in mass shootings in South Africa that could shed light on the possible motives behind this incident, especially with this one that we're seeing here? 18 family members.
I think, look, insofar as mass murders is concerned, one thing is certain: they are on the rise. In actual fact, a few years ago, this would have been a phenomenon completely unknown in South Africa, but we have had several incidents of mass shootings that I think, in the past few years. And I think on that basis, I can certainly say that they are on the rise. But I also think that it's important to make a point that this murder obviously took place against a background of an extremely violent society. And I think just to put that into perspective, right? Last year, or a year to this year, we have recorded in 12 months period 27,000 murders in this country, right? 27,000 cases of homicides, which translate into 45 people murdered for every 100,000. Now, again, just to put that into context, US, which is one of the most violent Western countries, if you like, has a murder rate of 6.4 per 100,000 people. On average, European countries have a murder rate of 1.100,000 for every person that, 1.1 per 100,000 people are being murdered. So it therefore means that South Africa actually has 45 times more than what you encounter as a rate of homicide in Europe, for instance. In actual fact, by these statistics, 70 people are murdered every day in this country. And I think the domestic violence is a major feature of that, right? And last statistics that I checked, they were putting the question of, 50, that basically thousands and thousands of women that are killed in cases of domestic violence, in fact, are killed by their, intimate partner. But beside just that, the domestic violence is very much part of an extremely elevated levels of violent crimes in this country. And I think that is alarming, but also that speaks to an elite and government that is simply incapable of responding to implosion of society, as well as the crisis, including the crisis of violent crimes in this country that put us on par with countries officially at war. In actual fact, we had recorded far more incidents of homicides in the past few years than they were recorded in Ukraine, for instance.
Wow. Anyway, in your opinion, how does this incident reflect broader issues of crime and violence in South Africa? That's one. On the other hand, what role do socioeconomic factors play in escalating violent crime rates, as we've seen?
Yeah, and I think I've already outlined the statistics in terms of, just the sheer scale of violence, which really has created the state of war. And somebody, especially in Nigeria like yourself, will be able to appreciate looking at it from outside, because a lot of South Africans, this is a normal daily reality of a very brutal life that we are leading here. And I think it has kind of become normalized and people don't reflect on that. But I think insofar as what are the factors that are driving it, we are living in the most unequal society in the world. So that should not come as a shock, right? Because what does it mean? It means for many families, you have a cost of living crisis where people are having to buy food that are priced on the basis of certain, or people living in certain income brackets, which are not reflective of the reality of 12 million people that are unemployed in this country. And of course, over 50.5% that are living in poverty in the most industrialized country in the entire continent, which is a host to the most richest people across the whole African continent. And I think the layer of the middle class, particularly the white middle class, that is living on the standards far surpassing those of Europe and many advanced capitalist societies and so on. It is those vast inequalities that are a major factor alongside just sheer scale of the poverty, particularly of the black working class, that is responsible for this, as well as, of course, a collapse in public services, including, obviously, the state of policing that is not only failing to manage the crisis. In actual fact, the situation is getting worse and worse. The last time it was said that the prosecution rate of the people that are murdered, right, has declined so much that only about 12% of the murders are successfully prosecuted in this country. And that number keeps going down. So there is a sense of impunity amongst criminals. And of course, they are on a rampage. And the sense that there is not going to be any accountability is fueling all of that.
All right. I want to say thank you so much for speaking with us. It's been quite insightful. Thank you, Mametlwe Sebei, for being here on News Now. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.